Local government and urban-suburban problems. Now, there are so-called centripetal forces of suburbia and centrifugal forces of urban areas. Broadly speaking, this means that people are attracted towards suburbia, and at the same time, they're pushed out of urban areas. By 1970 in the United States, more people lived in suburban rings of metropolitan areas than anywhere else in the country. That is to say, more than in urban areas and in rural areas. Suburbia offers more space, cleaner air, better schools, better chance of home ownership than urban areas. So this would be the centripetal force, or the force of attraction toward the suburbs. Simultaneously, we've got centrifugal forces that push people out because urban areas are often full of crime, congestion, deteriorating housing, poor services, and inferior schools. Now, when people leave urban areas and move into the suburbs, what this means for urban areas is that human and capital flight exaggerates or worsens their urban problems. Okay, the more people and money leave urban areas, okay, the more housing deteriorates, the less business there is, the tax base deteriorates, there's less money for schools and other government services, and everything gets worse because money leaves and because people who would be willing to work and build up their communities and positively contribute to them also leave. So what is it that has actually caused this explosive suburban growth? It hasn't actually been, materialized on its own. Rather, it was realized because of a confluence of multiple factors. The first of which is the preference of the American people themselves. Polls show consistently that all groups, regardless of age, class, race, or geographic location, prefer either suburban or small-town living. So people do not want to stay in urban areas if they can help it. For the most part, they want to move out. Second, home mortgage interest rate deduction. You can deduct up to $1 million from your taxes. That has created a very strong financial incentive for people to actually acquire homes, their own homes. This kind of mortgage interest rate deduction is very rare in the world. America is one of the few countries that actually has this deduction. It makes it quite lucrative for most middle-class people and higher to own a home because it simply makes no sense to rent in the long run. Veteran home loans offer no money down, highly competitive interest rates, no monthly mortgage insurance premium. So this makes it attractive for veterans to become homeowners in the United States. And of course, we should not forget the creation of the secondary market for home mortgages in the 1930s and then expanded in the 1960s with companies like Fannie Mae, which in my area, in the Las Vegas metro area, owns the vast majority of outstanding residential mortgages. So when banks issue a mortgage, they do not hold it. They almost immediately turn around and sell homeowners' mortgages to Fannie Mae. And so the Fannie Mae becomes the real owner of the mortgage that you take out as a private resident. And then while you pay your monthly mortgage to your bank, the bank is merely an intermediary or a processor between you and the real owner of your mortgage, which is Fannie Mae. And then Fannie Mae packages mortgages together and it sells them as mortgage-backed securities to Wall Street investors. And then Wall Street investors, when they purchase these securities, very often they also buy insurance from insurance companies. They buy credit default swaps in case their investment in mortgage-backed securities goes south. So this is how insurance companies get involved in this mortgage financial gain. The end result of this is, of course, to flood the system with a lot of capital, a lot of money, making it easier for the average person to buy a home. The downside is that in case of a financial crisis and the drying up of the liquidity, then the bubble bursts, and you have a significant number of people going into foreclosure because all that capital suddenly leaves the market. Another thing that has contributed to the growth of home ownership is the overall wealth of the country and of its citizens. So here what I mean is both government and private wealth has increased. Vast suburbs require a great deal of infrastructure, so roads, freeways, bridges. They also require a lot of private wealth to buy cars and pay for car insurance, and of course private wealth to finance home repairs and home maintenance. Because of all these expenses, vast home ownership is inconceivable until the second half of the 20th century, when households became wealthy enough to have suburban homes in very, very large numbers by the millions. And of course, another thing that happened in recent decades is foreign capital from countries like China and Japan has entered the United States, and foreigners have invested a lot into American debt, into American Treasury notes and Treasury bonds. This money percolated down from the national government level to the level of the citizen, and the United States became flooded with all this money, and the money had to go somewhere. So one of the places where it went was real estate, another was the stock market. And in fact, the two compete for capital. They compete for money. The less money on the stock market, the more potential money is available for real estate investment, which is exactly what happened between the years 2001 and 2007. When the stock market bubble burst in 2001, a lot of the capital went into real estate, and this contributed to the rapid inflation of the real estate bubble between the years 2001 and 2007. Anyway, when people are really hungry for their own homes and they want to become homeowners, many find it difficult to buy a home within a reasonable distance of the place where they work or go to school, and sometimes they choose a more unreasonable distance, so to speak. They really choose to live in the boonies because that's the only place where they can afford to buy a home. A real estate agent might say, drive until you can afford it. Drive further and further away outside the suburbs that have already been built up. Move into the exurbs. So exurbs are very distant suburbs where hardly anything exists, and where you only find bedroom communities that are still being built, and there isn't much by way of shopping malls or other conveniences, office buildings, etc. You just have these suburban homes or exurban homes. And of course, this is all the result of this spectacular sprawl that now produces exurbs, very distant suburbs. And when you add it all up, all the suburbs, all the exurbs, you have sprawling organic areas of human populations that span established administrative boundaries. They span not only cities, but also very often counties. As you can see, in Southern California, Los Angeles County, Orange County, Ventura County, San Bernardino, and Riverside County, these 5 counties have merged to create a single living human population area. So how do you manage an area which overlaps not just cities, but counties as well? And this area contains well over 18 million people already. So over the last 40 years, the explosive growth in Southern California left virtually no space undeveloped between southern portion of the Ventura County and northern portion of San Diego County. So, and in fact, some would say it now goes all the way through San Diego County to the border of Mexico. So from Ventura County to the border of Mexico, pretty much everything is settled. There's still some agricultural and vacant land out east, of course, but along the coast, like within the 10 miles of the coast, everything is settled from the central Ventura County to kind of the border of Mexico. It's absolutely incredible, and the challenges that it puts forth to city governments and county governments are very, very real challenges. Now, the human sprawl does not have to be contained just within cities and counties. It can also span the states. For example, the tri-state area that encompasses New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey obviously crosses state boundaries. And people who maybe started out in life in New York, whether they're native-born or immigrants, very often move out eventually to New Jersey or Connecticut because these are the only places where they can actually afford to buy a condominium or a house because everything is so expensive in the 5 boroughs of New York City. And something similar happens actually with the Chicago metropolitan area. Many people incorrectly assume that Chicago is limited to the state of Illinois. This is not the case in the 21st century. A portion of suburban Chicago spills into western Indiana, and a portion now spills into southern Wisconsin. So it also is a tri-state area of sorts. Now, how do you deal with all this as a government? First of all, the Constitution of the United States permits the states to cooperate to create interstate compacts for economic management of the overlapping areas. So an example would be New York, New Jersey Port Authority, which operates bus and ferry boat terminals. Also, cities, counties, and states are connected by interstate highways. So freeways and highways connect the states, allowing for the seamless movement of goods and people from state to state and county to county. Cities and counties, however, have limited resources to correct significant social and economic disparities between cities and counties. The truth of the matter is that in a state like New York or California, you can have cities that exist almost side by side, maybe within 15, 20 miles of each other, and yet they are like different worlds socially and economically. So on a day when the traffic is light, you might be able to travel from Compton, California to Beverly Hills, California along Freeway 110 maybe in 20 minutes. 20 to 30 minutes could be enough time. But these two cities are very different in terms of per capita income, in terms of job opportunities, in terms of crime rates, etc. So you can hardly ask a city or a county to correct a socioeconomic problem. And in fact, by now, you cannot even ask the state because all states are, in fact, under pressure. They are suffering from their own budget issues, partly because they have overpromised so much in benefits, particularly in pensions, but also in health benefits to their full-time employees. So the states are generally also incapable to remedy socioeconomic problems that exist within these continuous organic areas of human development. Now, what does this leave us with? This actually leaves us with the national level. But we saw since 1965 and the war on poverty, we saw that the national government is likewise unable to remedy poverty. The poverty rate today is approximately what it was in the 1960s. And there's a record number of people on public assistance programs like Medicaid, temporary assistance for needy families, food stamps, now enroll more people than ever before. So given that fact, and given that the national government already runs significant budget deficits, and that the United States is almost $20 trillion in debt as of 2016, this means that our areas that are seamless in terms of its infrastructure and the human sprawl are in fact very fragmented when it comes to their socioeconomic characteristics. Dealing with suburban sprawl will remain a major problem into the 21st century. The reason why this will remain a major problem into the 21st century is because every single estimate for population projections that we have tells us that the population of the United States will continue to grow. The only way that this wouldn't happen if there was somehow a very drastic cut to immigration. Because as you might know from other lectures, the population of the United States has been growing since the 1970s only thanks to immigration. Without it, it would in fact be declining slowly because the replacement rate, the fertility rate in the United States is lower, appreciably lower than the replacement rate. So population keeps growing thanks to immigration. The rough agreement is that at current rates of immigration, by 2050, the United States will have 400 million people. Given this fact, and given the fact that Americans prefer suburban life, and that the United States has a lot of territory still to sprawl over, we are going to see continuing growth of suburbs. Now, this is going to place significant pressures on economic resources, water being one of the most important ones. I live in southern Nevada, and I know firsthand, just by observing what happened to Lake Mead, that the water level in Lake Mead has dropped precipitously in recent decades. And going forward, it's hard to see how this problem of insufficient water resources can be solved unless we can generate enough energy from fusion power or some other source to make desalination of ocean water economically a viable option on a large scale. Desalination plants, of course, exist, but on a large scale, they're not particularly economically efficient. So, potentially that's one solution. Clearly, there are also other problems. Downtowns continue to be in decline, and revitalizing them has not been very successful. The most that can be achieved is when they are revitalized, they become another suburb. They don't become anything particularly special. It's just another suburb. And the reason why is because new people that are added to cities and states are added in suburban and exurban areas. They are far enough away from downtowns not to want to travel to downtowns because of traffic and the sheer distance and the gas money that it takes to travel to downtowns. Plus, there's nothing particularly special about downtowns. People tend to travel there because they need to go to court or because they need to visit someone in jail downtown. The traditional attractions like symphonies, like you go to a city like Los Angeles, there may be a symphony house, downtown. These became gradually less popular in the United States because of entertainment options that opened up due to cable television, video gaming, YouTube, internet, etc. So going downtown, traveling downtown for certain amenities, entertainment, etc., makes less sense when all the entertainment options are available locally and when shopping malls and stores of all kinds are available locally. So downtowns are either in decline or they have been revitalized here and there and became nothing more than just another suburb. So it's hard to see them once again being a center of social life. It's just hard to see because everyone who can tends to get out of the downtowns and their immediate areas. People who live there tend to live there because it's very convenient for them, because they tend to work there or in the vicinity. So the future is likely to be more suburban than ever before. Thank you.